All right, let's crack open a highly classified dossier today. Welcome to The Explainer, where we're diving headfirst into one of Europe's very first true crime mega-scandals. Picture this. It's 17th century France. On the surface, King Louis XIV, the legendary Sun King, is projecting this flawless image of absolute, divine luxury from his incredibly glamorous palace at Versailles. But hiding literally just beneath that radiant golden facade is a vast, terrifying underground network of assassins, occult rituals, and intense paranoia. This story moves incredibly fast, so let's unpack this together. Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll start with the glamour and paranoia of Versailles, then dig into the infamous inheritance powder, investigate the occult underground, expose the royal cover-up, and finally separate the myths from reality. Okay, Section 1. Versailles, glamour, and paranoia. So, was the Sun King's court secretly run by poisoners? I know, it sounds straight out of a Hollywood thriller, but this was a very real, very paralyzing fear for the absolute monarch of France. Louis XIV reigned over one of Europe's most powerful monarchies, completely focused on projecting perfect Catholic morality and stability. Yet, behind closed doors, the king was absolutely terrified that a shadowy, organized conspiracy was out to assassinate him and collapse his entire court. You have to understand that behind the lavish balls and the stunning architecture, nobles at Versailles were basically locked in a vicious, cutthroat fight for influence. In a society where medical science was, virtually non-existent, and superstition was just an everyday norm, getting rid of a rival was dangerously easy. We aren't talking about harmless court gossip here. This was a brutal matter of life and death, entirely driven by an environment of intense, suffocating paranoia.
Moving on to Section 2, the inheritance powder. Let's dive into the actual weapons used in this underground war. The inheritance powder. It is such a chilling 17th century euphemism for poison. Think about it. In a time when divorce was pretty much impossible and securing your inheritance meant everything, poison became the quiet, invisible solution. Aristocrats used it to secretly eliminate inconvenient husbands, block political rivals, or just speed up the demise of wealthy family members. And the poisons themselves really highlight the stark reality of early forensic science, which is to say, there basically wasn't any. Arsenic was the absolute go-to, causing fatal organ failure. Then you had antimonium and mercury compounds, which were incredibly easy to disguise as medicine. And of course, belladonna, favored for its hallucinogenic effects and deep occult associations. The really clever murderers would even use slow-acting mixtures so nobody would suspect a thing.
So why was this so effective? Well, 17th century medicine was fundamentally unequipped to catch a killer. There's no modern toxicology, no chemical testing, no standardized autopsies. If an aristocrat suddenly fell ill and died, the symptoms, vomiting, fever, stomach pain, they perfectly mimicked everyday natural diseases or just bad food. A murder could remain completely 100% invisible. But that invisibility vanished completely in 1676. This was the spark that ignited the whole powder keg. Madame de Brinvilliers was arrested, tortured, and executed for poisoning her father and her two brothers, all driven by a desire for their money and her own personal freedom. Her highly publicized trial absolutely shocked France, and more importantly, it tipped off the authorities to a massive, terrifying underground market of poison sellers that they previously knew nothing about. Which brings us to Section 3, investigating the occult underground. Enter Gabriel Nicolas de la Reynie, France's very first major police chief. To hunt down this shadowy network, this guy practically invented modern criminal intelligence. He didn't just go around arresting people, he built extensive networks of informants, conducted widespread surveillance, and compiled massive secret dossiers. He was basically building the blueprint for state policing right in the middle of a national crisis.
La Reynie's investigation quickly zeroed in on the absolute kingpin of the scandal, Catherine Voisin, better known to history as La Voisin. Outwardly, she was just a fortune teller and midwife. But behind closed doors, she allegedly offered highly lucrative, illicit services to the highest-ranking nobles and royal mistresses. We're talking illegal love potions, the sale of deadly poisons, and even orchestrating dark occult rituals to help these aristocrats climb the social ladder.
And the accusations surrounding La Voisin grew incredibly dark, incredibly fast. Investigators recorded truly shocking testimonies of black masses, rituals that allegedly involved inverted Catholic ceremonies, demonic invocations, and severe sacrilegious acts led by defrocked priests, like the infamous Abbé Guibourg. These ceremonies were supposedly performed for one main reason: to magically secure the king's affection. Now, let's take a step back and look at this objectively. Modern historians heavily caution us here. While some bizarre occult practices definitely happened, the most extreme satanic claims were likely wildly exaggerated. The authorities were swept up in a massive anti-occult panic, and we have to remember that forced confessions extracted through some really brutal torture seriously distorted the historical record. All right, Section 4, the Royal Cover-Up. The investigation was moving at a breakneck pace, but then it hit an explosive wall. It implicated Madame de Montespan. She wasn't just a random noble. She was King Louis XIV's chief mistress and the mother of several of his children. Informants accused her of buying love potions and participating in those dark rituals just to ensure the king never left her. Suddenly, this wasn't just a Parisian crime ring. The scandal was literally tied to the king's own bedroom. Let's look at how fast this snowballed. In 1676, Brinvilliers gets arrested. By 1679, the king is so panicked he creates a special tribunal called the Burning Chamber exclusively to try poisoners. In 1680, Voisin is burned alive. But as the names of powerful nobles start piling up, hitting way too close to home, everything abruptly halts in 1682, and the king dissolves the special court entirely. But before he shut it down, the human toll was staggering: 36. That is the stark number of confirmed executions that took place during this panic. People were burned alive or beheaded, and on top of that, there were over 400 arrests and hundreds of interrogations. Many others were just quietly exiled or thrown into secret prisons for the rest of their lives, without ever seeing a single public trial. So what's the crucial takeaway here? Louis XIV deliberately suppressed the truth. Facing a massive public scandal that threatened to absolutely destroy the illusion of his divine royal order, he chose elite stability over justice. He dissolved the court, sealed the investigative records, and quietly buried the evidence to protect the pristine reputation of the French monarchy. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Myths, Reality, and Legacy. It's so important that we separate the sensational legends from the hard historical facts. The myth tells us that literally everyone at Versailles was a poisoner and that satanic cults were secretly running France, but the reality is far more nuanced. Only a relatively small network of poisoners was actually proven to exist, while the vast, overarching satanic conspiracy was heavily distorted by moral panic and the investigators' use of brutal torture. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the affair of the poisons matters to us right now. I mean, this scandal literally birthed modern, centralized state policing and criminal intelligence. Beyond that, it gives us a flawless psychological case study, proving that absolute power breeds extreme paranoia. It's a textbook example of mass hysteria, elite corruption, and the profound danger of government secrecy. If you take away just one thing from this explainer, let it be this: absolute power creates hidden corruption, and fear can destabilize entire societies. The affair of the poisons wasn't just a scandalous true crime story. It was a profound crisis of authority. It showed exactly what happens when elites behave irrationally under the heavy weight of their own pressure and insecurity. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to chew on. When elites panic and the truth actually threatens their power, what else gets buried in the shadows? If a king can literally erase a massive criminal network just to protect his crown, it really makes you wonder what modern truths are being sealed away today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep looking past the facade, and never stop exploring the shadows of history.